welcome to a brand new episode of the Five Heart Podcast, brought to you by CornNation.com, part of the SB Nation Podcast Network. I'm your host. My name is Greg Mahochko. My setup's a little different this week because I have apparently no spare light bulbs in my house, and the light above my desk just decided to go out. So I'm sitting on my couch holding my phone, so we're going to power through this the best we can. And who better to power through things with than the guys who have carried the torch the last couple of weeks. As always, he is our founder and fearless leader, John Dam Johnston. Hello, John.
Hi.
Okay. And joining us as well, as always, is Todd Wolverton. Hello, Todd.
Hey, Greg. Hey, good to have you back, and congratulations on the two new little additions to your family. That's exciting, and at the same time, you're a busy man.
Yeah. And they're not even home from the hospital yet, and I still don't get enough sleep. So it's been, as of Friday morning when this episode drops, they'll be 2 weeks and 3 days old. And, is what it is right now. None of them are home. There's a chance that by the time this episode drops, one of them will be home. So he's doing a little bit. He's a little ahead of his brother, but they're strong. They're good looking kids. They're putting on weight, every day. So that's all we can ask for.
Great.
Thank you, Todd. What have I missed last couple of weeks, guys? What's been going on?
Nothing. Not a fucking thing.
Well, I know last week was a preview of the Big Ten wrestling tournament. Todd and Dylan were both on, and I watched some of the wrestling tournament. And even commented, joined part of the conversation in the Slack chat room during Chad Red's. I don't think it might have been semifinal or quarterfinal. It was quarterfinal. It was Saturday night. How did that work? Todd, was it quarterfinals on Saturday night? Or was
Saturday night would have been semis.
So it was semis. Went up against the kid from Iowa, and it's just. You run into a kid from Iowa, it's just not going to be, the odds are against you. But let's start there because Todd, as you mentioned just before we jumped here, 9 Huskers are going to nationals.
Yeah.
And for anybody out there, there are only 9.5 weight classes. So that's a very good.
Well, there are 10 weight classes. There are 9.5 full ride scholarships. How's that?
Oh, there you go.
But no, they did qualify 9. They placed third as a team. Dylan had reported that in an interview that he participated in with Coach Manning that, one of their primary goals was to have a conference champion, which they haven't had. Nebraska hasn't had since, I think he said 2015. Didn't get one, had 3 guys in the finals. They all got second, but the team did finish third. There were some real pleasant surprises. Ridge Lovett at 149 pounds. He was kind of the story of the tournament. He did get beat in the finals by Sammy Sasso from Ohio State, but he knocked off the number 2 seed, and then he beat an experienced wrestler from Minnesota to get to the finals. And Ridge Lovett is up 2 weight classes from last year. He's my favorite Husker wrestler. It was a lot of fun to watch him in this tournament. And Peyton Robb, nearly duplicated the same feat. He was seeded 7th, and he too knocked off the number 2 seeded wrestler. He did not get to the finals, but he did place well. So a good day, good 2 days for the Huskers. They're probably a little disappointed because I think with this program, they always set their sights higher. They want to be in the discussion for championships, and we'll just see how they do 10 days from now when they're at the national tournament down in St. Louis.
First of all, if it were non-COVID and I did not have 2 newborns, I would definitely make an attempt to get over there to St. Louis for the NCAA wrestling tournament. and I think I've talked about this on the show. Like my high school, we didn't have football, we didn't have wrestling. We had, let's see, well, I played baseball. Was on the basketball team for freshman year. We had track and field, we had cross country, we had soccer. But that was, and I think they added bowling somewhere when I was in high school. But so I didn't know much about amateur wrestling until I got out to Chadron in 2003, and the Panhandle will wake you up to high school wrestling, and being at Chadron State helped certainly because they had some quality athletes there. So I've only grown in my appreciation of amateur wrestling, and when you have a name like Jordan Burroughs, out of the University of Nebraska, who's been a multi-time golden medalist at the Olympics and other world champions or world championships, I should say. He's been a fun personality to follow, on social media as well, and to kind of track his career over 15 years now. It seems like. Yeah. So the more, and we talked about this, I think last weekend in the Slack chat room is, I keep trying to convince my wife, like how to get, when can we get our son into wrestling? Because the local coach here, I don't think he went to Nebraska, but he was the strength and conditioning coach for wrestling at Nebraska for a few years. So it's like, I got that tie, I got that in, but she's still hesitant. So I in talking with you, Todd, you're like, maybe 5's not the best age to get him in. Maybe let him get a little bit older and understand technique more, things like that. But I've definitely grown my appreciation. So there is a certain buzz about being at, like a big wrestling tournament. Chadron State used to host the district, high school district, District B maybe, or whatever, or Class B district wrestling, whatever it was, when I was in Nebraska. So I'd go to that, and it's electrifying. It's so much fun to go. And people who, and look, Husker fans, I think across the board have at least a sliding scale of appreciation of wrestling. But even if you're just casual observer, when the world opens up again, you've got to go check out some of these duels, something like that in person, be it at your high school or a college near you, or you can even get some of that electricity from watching it on TV. So again, when the world opens up again, if NCAA, if the National Wrestling Tournament's still in St. Louis next year, I'll be seeking out some passes, I think.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been to the national tournament in St. Louis, I think at least 3 times. And it's one of my favorite venues to watch it. The people in St. Louis roll out the red carpet, and always have stayed downtown, always walked, to the venue. And it's a great place. I will say this, Nebraskans will have a chance to watch a big time tournament next year, because Nebraska will host the Big Ten tournament. And, my assumption is they'll have it at Pinnacle Bank Arena, will be my guess. And if you've never been, you need to be at that. It's close enough that the Hawkeye fans, they will invade. Minnesota will travel well to that tournament, but Nebraska has some very loyal, committed, somewhat crazy wrestling fans themselves. So it will be a great opportunity for people to see as good as it gets. The Big Ten Conference, we've had that conversation before.
Absolutely.
The best wrestling conference in the country. And to have it in Lincoln, Nebraska, a year from now, that will be really exciting.
So best wrestling conference, best volleyball conference, best men's basketball conference. And as we make a transition, I think we've got next week, we can talk maybe about, Huskers odds at the national tournament. Maybe we'll see if Dylan wants to come on for a cameo. But as we transition, Nebraska, best team in the conference for baseball.
Well, They are tied for the lead in the conference, aren't they? I love baseball. John gets jacked up about baseball. He gets pretty animated about it. And we've had some conversations in recent weeks, our frustration with the Big Ten. I don't know if they've updated their baseball page yet on the website. But a lot of frustration there. I tell you what, I listened to all the games last week, all 4 of them. And I was incredibly frustrated, as was one of the Corn Nation writers on Slack after the first game. I sometimes I think that the coaches, it seems to me, I think they overthink it, and they think that they have to follow the book, so to speak. But in my opinion, they shouldn't have lost that first game on Friday. And then, holy smokes, they turned around and they won the next 3. I think in 3 games, Nebraska pitching only gave up 2 runs in those last 3 games. They were scoring runs like crazy. They were still leaving some runners on base, which, it could have been worse. But the thing that makes me the most excited about this team, we know that there were some good players coming back. Schwellenbach and
Mojo Hag.
Mojo's back. Cam Chick's back. Joe Acker's back. Cade Povich is back. Some good players coming back. But there were 3 freshmen that just their stars started shining in the first weekend. And, I was thinking about this. Each one of these guys, Bryce Matthews is playing second base. He's from Texas. And Max Anderson, he's from, I think, Millard. He's a home state boy. He played designated hitter, but he also played a game at third base. And then there's Jack Steele from Minnesota. He got his first start in I think, game 3. But all 3 of those guys, the last time they played baseball was at the high school level. And the first time they stepped in the batter's box as Division I college players, they all got a hit in their first at bats. And Max Anderson's first hit happened to be a home run. So
I want to piggyback on that. Did you all see the clip? I think it was the true freshman from Florida Atlantic, who pulled a Fernando Tatis, and in his first 2 at bats were both grand slams in the same inning.
Yeah,
so,
how's that? How is that? That is insane. But
I don't know the kid's name, but that's the problem is now you set the bar so high.
Yeah, there you go. But they also brought in this JUCO named Efry Cervantes. I'll tell you, Nebraska's got depth. They're going to hit the ball. They're going to hit the ball all over the park. Are they always going to drive in runs? That's been a problem for years, and hopefully they get that taken care of. But the pitching is going to be okay. It'll take a little time, but the pitching is going to be fine too.
I do have a question about that because baseball and softball are really the first sports. Now that we're a calendar year into this 2-week shutdown or whatever you want to call it. But those are the first. We're into the spring sports season where that extra year of eligibility, because the seasons got canceled and you didn't have to, if you were a senior last year, you could come back and play your senior year in 2021. And there goes John. So sorry I bored you, John. No, I'm kidding. But how does, as far as roster management, what was done in the off season, Todd? Do you know about that? To handle the guys who wanted to come back, get that extra year, and also incoming freshmen.
Well, they were given. Well, there were 6 seniors at Nebraska, and if I'm not mistaken, I might be off here a little bit. I think 3 of them did choose to come back.
I think one of those is Hagee.
Hagee,
I think he was a senior, right?
Hagee chose to come back, and Luke Roscom, I think, was one, and Joe Acker, another outfielder. Joe Acker had an incredible weekend against Purdue. He was just lights out at the plate. But they could come back, and, I don't know all the ins and outs with the scholarship money, but I think that there was scholarship money additional scholarship money allocated for them.
John's choking. You okay, buddy? Okay, just checking. I worry about you, man.
Yeah. But then, they brought in their full load of freshmen. Now, those three players, Acker, Hagee, and Roskin, this is their last season. They'll be done.
Yeah.
But, they basically are giving a freebie to everyone else, it sounds like. So I don't know how that's all going to go. Baseball, my guess is that the roster's not going to expand, next year. They're gonna settle on what their roster's going to look like.
Okay. And then you boys are heading to John's backyard for a little bit of Big Ten baseball this weekend. And John can't even talk about it. He's so emotional, so broken up about it. John.
Yeah, my voice is just gone, man.
I'm really worried about you, bud.
Why? I just decided to become a country singer just now.
Every time I look over at you, you're choking to death. Don't die again.
That's because it's all of a sudden gone. Just like the woman in the pickup and the cows are all dying. Now we're going to, Todd and I are going to U.S. Bank Stadium this weekend. God, now I sound like the guy that's at the end of the bar. Oh, every night you go in there, it's the same fucking story from that guy. Anyway, we're going to U.S. Bank Stadium this weekend to cover some baseball. I'm going to shoot the game, with a camera. I always have to say that. I tell people there's something else we got to come up with besides shooting. Except that's the term. Yeah, but it just sound. I'm going to photo the game.
It does sound clunky. But luckily, everybody knows you, John, and we know that you are a level-headed and peaceful man without a bone of violence in your body.
A complete pacifist. Did
you miss me, John?
Yeah, sure. I got stuck with Commie Pinko Todd the whole time, for God's sakes.
Is that your dog in the back?
We had I got an email from the SID, the Minnesota Baseball SID, Sports Information Director, and it sounds like I'm talking to my cat. My cat isn't on the microphone. It sounds like we're pretty restricted on where we're going to be able to go and what we're going to be able to do while we're at U.S. Bank, but I guess we'll figure it out when we get there. So,
more importantly, where are y'all going for dinner?
Well, there's a few things you have to keep in mind right now.
Is Minnesota still shut down relatively?
Well, that's probably not one of the main problems. One of the main problems is that there's this little bit of a kind of a trial starting in Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah.
That seems to have has the town on edge because of its velocity. And I don't know if the bars or restaurants, I don't know what's going on downtown. I don't know what's open.
The good news is you live in a smaller town away from downtown.
Well, that is true.
You can always dine locally. You don't need to support the big change, John. It's the local businesses that really need your help right now.
I think that most of them we order out from you. I mean, like when we go get pizza from Ditello's, which is excellent pizza here in Chaska, or we get I call it McGillicuddy's. It's Willie McCoy's because I screw everything up. But I mean, we have to pretty much order out there. But on the other hand, my wife and I are both double vaccinated now. So
there you go. Todd, are you double vaccinated?
Actually, I get my first shot. I'm scheduled for my first shot tomorrow.
Fantastic.
So it is the benefit of having a body mass index of over 30. So I finally have discovered a positive to being fat.
I say this.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I qualified.
To piggyback on what you're saying, I have not received my invitation to get vaccinated yet, but a coworker did. he's a few years, he's my age or a year younger. He said that he got his first shot. Like they called him and said, "Hey, we've got extra or whatever. We got an opening if you want to come down." Yada yada. So he did. He said, and to be nice, he's on the rotund side, but he said, "Yeah, that's finally something good happening from my high blood pressure and obesity." I was like, "Oh, buddy."
Dude, if I was you, Todd, I would have never fucking mentioned that ever.
Well,
ever. Because what's going to happen now. You know what's up.
Yeah, I know.
It's going to be fat commie bastard Todd. That's what it's going to be.
I tell you what, I'm embarrassed really to say it, but I've been sitting here, and incredibly frustrated about how slow it's all been going in Iowa and how they've tiered things. And I'm not going to go down the political route with this, but like my wife, she's at a tier higher than I thought 2 tiers higher than I was because of the priority with people in the manufacturing industry. She's a buyer for a manufacturing company. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, God, I'm not going to get vaccinated until May or June. And then I started reading through some of the requirements when they're going to vaccinate people 16 to 65 who have, I don't know, at-risk health conditions or whatever. And so I just started reading through those and, it had body mass index greater than 40. Well, those are pretty heavy folks. And I just kept scrolling down. There it was, body mass index over 30.
And you started singing Weird Al Yankovic's "Fat." Wasn't that the song? Parody Bad. I'm fat. I get my vaccine. I don't know how it goes.
So I don't say this to, with any negative connotation to you, Todd, or my colleague or anybody, but it's like the people who have taken care of themselves and who have, lived healthy lifestyles, they're like, what the hell is all that shit for?
I agree with you. And, on the flip side of this, my diet has gotten significantly better in the last 2 years, especially in the last year. I've really started paying more attention to that. I have lost weight. I'm on a treadmill for 30 minutes every day. So, I have done a lot of things. I feel as good as I've ever felt. And then, this came around and, I just punched my numbers in and I qualified for it. And I made that comment to another friend of mine and they said, maybe you should stay off the treadmill for a couple of days and
Okay, so really what you're saying is you are huge and now you're only mostly ginormous.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, those body mass index things are not always, the calculations are not always indicative of how someone's put together. I mean, when I wrestled in college, and I had less than 3% body fat, if you were to run that body mass index calculation, I would have been heavy. I wouldn't have been obese or overweight, but I'm a quote unquote, I have a mesomorph body type, and mesomorph body types tend to be, a little more solid, I guess. But I'm not denying it. I'm carrying this extra lard on the front of me that is a lot harder to take off than it was to put on.
Amen. All right.
So we're going to US Bank Stadium this weekend. US Bank Stadium is apparently hosting a shit ton of college baseball games because today I went to my mechanic's place and I took my van to the junkyard. Basically, I gave it to my mechanic so my old shitty van can go to the junkyard. And while I was there, I happened to mention I was going to be at US Bank, and his wife said his son was playing for, I can't remember who it was. I know Bemidji State is one of the teams that'll be there this weekend. So it sounds like, it's 7 a.m. They're going to be starting baseball for the minor colleges in Minnesota to play at US Bank too. So,
wow.
You want wall-to-wall baseball, I guess we can see it.
And I know a lot of major league stadiums are reaching out to smaller stadiums for, like emergency facilities type of things. I just noticed that there's it's not even like major league affiliated. It's Frontier League team that's about 15 minutes from our house, the Gateway Grizzlies, that we've gone and checked out a few times. But they're just across the river from St. Louis. So the Cardinals and them worked out a deal that, I guess if the Cardinals, if there's a situation the Cardinals need a facility, then they will use the Grizzlies. Now, what I've seen, and I don't know if you guys go to a lot of minor league ball games, but the couple of minor league teams that we have here in Southern Illinois, again, Frontier League, they are like full turf fields. The what would be grass is turf, what would be dirt is turf. And I just wonder, like, if you're a major league ball club, that's a completely different playing surface than what you're accustomed to. And do they say keep the surface the way it is because we probably won't need it, or hey, we're going to throw you $1 million to upgrade your field? I don't know. I just know that the surface is very weird. I wouldn't, if I were a ball player, I wouldn't like want to be sliding into second on the turf.
They don't have dirt where the base running paths are.
No,
it is brown colored turf.
There's quite a few colleges with those kind of surfaces.
Why are they doing that?
Probably easier maintenance.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'd be on the maintenance crew if I could go out there and drag a little screen around every 3 innings. That'd be fun.
My daughter has played on that surface. In fact, up in Minnesota, John went out and watched her play a couple of times. They played at Augsburg in a dome, and the only difference for her is they would wear sport court shoes or running shoes, that type of thing, rather than cleats.
Right.
But she had she had absolutely no reservations or hesitation about sliding, and the whole team. And in fact, they had to practice a little bit on that because they would actually slide further, if that makes any sense. It was not uncommon, to see a girl flying into second base and slide right past the bag. Yeah. So.
And it has to be take some getting used to, because it's got a hard grounder or something like that. It's going to play differently on that than it would be on a grass and dirt. But
absolutely.
All right. So U.S. Bank Stadium. If you're watching the games on television, look for John. Look for Todd. More likely you'll see John, and that's just unfortunate all around. So we're just about to. In fact, on one side we're already into conference tournament time, and that's women's basketball. Men's basketball. Well, actually, I hate to say it, but by the time you listen to this podcast, men's basketball season might be over. So, but the women, they're better. They're better than the men.
Well, they won today against Minnesota. And now for their reward, they get to play number 1 Maryland.
Okay. It's a hell of a reward. Bring it on.
Right now, Nebraska is up on Penn State by 6, 37-31. They have been kicking their ass, but Penn State's caught up a little in the second half.
So what you're saying is by the time this episode is over, Nebraska's basketball season, we hope not. And we're probably not going to go.
No, it won't be over because we beat Penn State.
Yeah, but they beat us too. So.
No, we beat them.
Didn't we play them twice?
Regularly.
We split
beat
with
them
them
regularly.
That's what I'm saying. We beat them. They beat us. That's what I'm saying.
Don't make me come over there.
I wish you would, John. I would like to give you barbecue and pizza. I just want to feed you.
That's kind of weird. Wait, am I too skinny?
No, but I
already got vaccinated, you motherfucker. I don't need no fat excuse.
No, but I can't buy you a beer anymore because you don't drink. So I just have to, ply you with food, delicious food right here from the heartland.
Okay.
I have a basketball contribution. I'm not the big fan here, but I read a release from the NCAA that a team can play in the NCAA tournament with 5 players. So if you have 5 healthy players, your team can compete. Now, here's the good part. It did not address whether or not you had to have a coach. They didn't think about that. So, they're putting these criteria on these teams and quote unquote, how healthy they have to be able to play, or how many players they have to be able to suit up. And they said, if you've got 5 healthy players, you can play in the NCAA tournament.
They really need that money, man. They really need that $600 million or $1 billion, whatever it is, from the freaking March Madness.
If they get desperate enough, look out. Corn Nation is going to break the bubble.
Wow. The Big Ten also recently announced that for the rest of the season, their tournaments would follow whatever the local environment's rules were for COVID. So if they're playing in Texas, everybody can go to the game. I don't think the Big Ten's playing any tournaments in Texas, but whatever. But I mean, that means, well, let's say if they just happen to have a Big Ten baseball tournament, if suddenly tomorrow morning, 8 of the 13 qualified baseball presidents and chancellors wake up and say, we should have a baseball tournament in Omaha, then they'd follow Nebraska's restrictions on COVID.
And I know, going back to the baseball conversation a little bit, the disadvantage that, the Big Ten teams have by the mandate that you can only play conference games, so it's maybe not necessarily Big Ten tournament time, but when you start talking about regionals and your only competition is the 13 other teams in your conference that you may not meet all of them, it's a very limited pool to choose from, and I don't, unless there's one team, maybe it's Nebraska, that's just standout special. I don't think that the Big Ten is going to have a ton of representation in postseason baseball this year.
It's going to be tough, I think. 2, 3 maybe, but it'll be tough. So,
and granted, I don't know how many Big Ten teams usually make the tournament. I know Michigan and Indiana, I think, did recently or a couple of years ago, and
up to 4.
Yeah, 4 is. Okay. It's been
4
pretty
is a damn
consistent
good year.
Yeah.
All right.
With that whole attendance thing, at work today, I was working with a team and with a principal from a small Christian school in Lincoln. His school's basketball team played in the first round of the Nebraska State boys high school tournament today, and they held the first round games. It's a smaller school. They held the first round games at Lincoln East and Lincoln East High School. And he said it was absolutely packed. He said it was shoulder to shoulder in the entire gymnasium. And, I didn't have opportunity to talk to him anymore about that, but, no social distancing, no limits on the number of people that could attend. So it's, you're free to go watch.
Well, just to repeat the cycle, everything shuts down and the numbers go down. Everybody gets a little bit of confidence, and then they open things up, and we get more, cases, and we got to shut down again. So, look, I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. Todd's in line for his first vaccination. John's had both of his. My wife has had both of hers. My mom actually gives out vaccines because she's a retired nurse. I asked my wife, I said, am I getting the vaccine? And she said, yes. So there you go. Do your own thing.
Did you ask for your penis back too?
No, I don't have to ask for that back, John. I know I'm not getting that back. But you know what? We just had twins, so there gotta be a little bit of use in it, baby. Yeah. So I'm not advocating one way or the other. That's not the 5 Heart Podcast job. Just use your best judgment, and everybody stay healthy out there.
What is going on in football?
We're still like 3 months away from spring practice.
Didn't they finally get a recruit for the 2022 class of 2022? Finally on the board with a recruit?
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. It's not even 2022 yet.
Well, everybody's been saying that, we're behind, freaking out. And they pulled in an in-state kid from Columbus. I think he's a linebacker.
Yep. 3-star.
Looked quite beastly from a little bit of the huddle video or whatever, highlight video I saw. So,
what's going on in football? Kansas University lost their head football coach and their athletic director in a very short period of time. And what the fuck, Les Miles? I used to like Les Miles. He quirky guy. Apparently he's really quirky.
I was advocating Les Miles when they hired Scott Frost. I thought, well, Les Miles is available.
Glad we didn't go that route.
Oh, yeah. Well, they did.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, they've had a lot of quite a few Title IX issues come to the surface down at LSU. And, some recent incidents with some players. There were some allegations that there was some improprieties going on that even when Coach O was leading the program, that kind of got, shuffled off to the side. Seems to me more fingers are pointing at administration and the bureaucrats not doing anything about reports. But then, so they've been under a microscope, and then they discovered old Les's preference for blonde girls working in his office that were voluptuous above the belly button. And those are the kind.
With all the impropriety down there, you'd have thought they would have hired Carl Pelini instead of Bo Pelini.
When you're Les Miles and you just go ahead and sign a fucking contract in Kansas, you have all this baggage behind you, but you go ahead and just keep operating I guess, maybe the guy should have retired and got on Fox TV like, Urban Meyer did. Now Bob Stoops is going to take over for Urban Meyer. But that's the part that I guess I find astonishing is that not only did Les Miles apparently have some proclivity for hitting on really young women that worked for him, but he just went on with his life as he thought everything was okay and normal.
Well, because he thought everything was okay and normal. People like that don't see anything wrong with what they've done. They haven't been held accountable. And
I think that's it.
Well, that's what they're, I don't want to venture into the political, that's what they're saying about a certain governor right now.
Yes, they are.
And it's a behavior that when you're not called on it, then there's no internalization that it's wrong. And we see that we've all got kids ourselves, and and when you see misbehavior, when you see inappropriate behavior, unless it's corrected, then people are going to accept it as it's okay. And I think that there are just some of those people that some men that fall into that category of that macho, the macho male, and nothing's happened to him to dissuade him from doing that type of thing. So I don't know.
He took Jeff Long down with him.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Well, geez, the basketball coach, with all the corruption going on in the basketball program, he seemed to be able to survive, and Jeff Long survived. but pull that football coach at Kansas out there, and so, I've got I won't dwell on this, but a former student of mine is a female, is an athletic trainer at LSU. And for quite a few years, she was the head trainer for the women's basketball program. And now she's associate head trainer for the football program. And she's a Midwest girl. And, you hear a lot about, women in the South and how women are treated and viewed differently in the South. And, I have never had that conversation with her. I don't know, if she's, what she's experienced or if she's seen, a difference in attitude directed towards them. But that's something, that's a conversation I do want to have at some point in time, because she would be very well aware of it. And, her being in the middle of the athletic program there, I'm real curious, not so much, well, did you know all this was going on? No, but talk to me about, those relationships and how that works, I guess, are things I'd like to know.
In other news,
I've got nothing left, John. I felt like that I was going to bring up something, and then I completely spaced my mind, and so I've got nothing. My topics tank is empty.
Lavonte David got paid.
It's about damn time.
He got a 2-year contract extension for $25 million.
Good for him.
No kidding. That guy's got to be. He's got to be a Hall of Famer someday. Is he better than Ray Lewis? Yes, he is. Fuck Ray Lewis. Lavonte David never murdered anybody. There's the first thing you start with. So anyway, there's the Lavonte David news.
Yeah, Lavonte David has been as consistent as any linebacker in the league. The unfortunate problem was that nobody knew who he was until TB12 took his talents to Tampa. And that spotlight got big all of a sudden, and Ndamukong Suh as well. And then you had, what was always he was always a standout defender. He wore the captain's C. You had a standout defender on a good, not great defense, on a decent, maybe good team, and then you get a couple of those pieces. And I don't like Tom Brady. If there was a way for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win the Super Bowl without Tom Brady, that like maybe if he would have tossed tossed Lombardi into the water and been made a fool of, that anything that brings Tom Brady, back to earth, because he's been living high on the hog a little too long. So yes, the spotlight for Tampa Bay Buccaneers got bigger, and Lavonte David, his talents were seen by more people, and so he was able to elevate his profile.
Is Ndamukong Suh, he's a free agent too, isn't he? And have they? I haven't heard anything about him being re-signed. But
I don't
know.
Yeah. Well, Lavonte David, he was such an exciting player to watch in college at Nebraska, and he does it the right way. And he's not this guy that, he does his job, he does his job, and he's not out there seeking all the glory and, attention and that type of thing. You got to really appreciate the guy for the way that he plays the game.
I think I shared a stat around the Super Bowl here on the show about something like in his collegiate career, 9,500, 9,200, whatever it is, defensive snaps. Let's say it's 9,000 plus, and something like, or maybe 5,000 plus. It doesn't matter, in the thousands, and single-digit penalties called against him. So, he's got it between the ears as well. Smart player. I think, I hope that he's a Hall of Famer someday. But I think in order to do so, Tampa Bay would have to win another title. or he would have to get on another team and win a title with them.
Well, I looked it up, and Ndamukong Suh is a free agent, but he wants to stay in Tampa Bay, probably for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's in Tampa Bay. Weather. I don't think he wants to go back to Detroit, Green Bay. I don't think he wants to go Buffalo.
He has the greatest quarterback of all time. Going to lead him probably to 3 more Super Bowls just to be a fucking selfish bastard.
Joe Montana retired 25 years ago.
Wow.
You talk about that, though, Tampa Bay and the weather. I thought it was really interesting how J.J. Watt, kind of pulled the rug out from everybody, because I just kept reading about Cleveland and Green Bay. Well, no, it's more likely to be in Cleveland. Well, no, Green Bay, he's a Wisconsin kid. It's just those 2 teams, Cleveland, Green Bay. And he's in Arizona.
Well, there was also talk about, and I don't think there was ever salary cap to make it happen, but, joining his 2 brothers in Pittsburgh as well. Yeah. He had TJ, of course, and then the other one. I mean, it's kind of like the end of the early seasons of Gilligan's Island, where they go through every cast member, and while they still have to mention the professor and Mary Ann, instead of being specific about it, they're like, and the rest. It's like JJ and TJ and the rest. Of the Watts boys, but went a long way there for a Gilligan's Island reference. I hope everybody appreciates that.
You did.
So, thank you, John. All
right,
John.
What's going on? What? You go ahead.
No, I want you to talk now, because you haven't done it enough this episode.
Well, March 8th, 2020 was the last time I shot an event. And it was the night that Minnesota beat Nebraska in basketball 107-75. And I was courtside, and we were just at the beginning of this shit. And obviously none of us knew that much about it. And
it was a week later that Nebraska was playing Indiana in the Big Ten tournament first night. And that's when I think the Utah Jazz player was announced that he had the coronavirus, and everything shut down after that. Sorry, John, I cut you off.
Yeah, you did. Good God, what the fuck, man? I cut you off.
We were recording the podcast when that game was being played and that news came out.
Which one? Because I was at the Minnesota game that I was talking about, that I was still telling a story about, you motherfucker.
The Big Ten tournament game. We were recording during that game. Anyway, go back to March 8th, 2020. Take us there. I'm gonna close my eyes. Paint the picture.
Well, right now it's 47-45. Nebraska is ahead. Trace McGowan has 4 fouls. There's 11:40 left, and Penn State is pulled within 2, and they're in the bonus for the rest of the game. Okay, compare this to a year ago when Minnesota beat us 107-75. I was there. My spot on the court was right in front of the Minnesota student band. And the whole crowd when they got close to 100 points, the whole crowd turned into this bloodlust thing where they wanted Minnesota to score 100 points. And it was kind of upsetting, but I understood it. But if you go back and look at that basketball team, we basically had almost no players left at that point. And I guess I want to go back and look at some of those photos, but what strikes me is Charlie Easley and Thor just playing their guts out, but they were both so red-faced and so exhausted in that game, toward the end of that game, that it was, it was kind of sad. And then at the end of the game, I walked, the Nebraska was coming off the floor, and I went over and met him, and I walked up to Doc Sadler and I shook his hand. I shook his hand and I said, well, good luck, Doc. You'd think better days ahead or something. And he said, thanks, And Seamus looked at me and said, thanks for coming out, John. And now the game's tied at 47 with Penn State tonight. But my thought was, when I walked away from Doc Sadler, was, oh my God, I've just given the entire basketball team COVID. And then a few nights later, we see where Fred Hoiberg is very ill courtside and has to leave the game. And all I can think is, oh my God.
I killed Fred Hoiberg.
But I think it's, the basketball team's come a long way. At least we have players to finish the season this year, and we're going back and forth with Penn State. It'd be, I have hope for the basketball team, I guess. And if you go back for that year, I mean, now I'm boring you, Greg. That was the
I'm
last
very sleepy, John. I have twins.
Yeah, that was the last sporting event I shot, and I really miss it. I miss being out at things, and I can't imagine right now having gone through this last year as a high school senior who wanted to play sports, and the shit that those kids have gone through with all the adults all over the fucking place that already managed their lives to the point of micromanagement and suffocation, now took their lives and basically either, I don't know, took things and threw it away from them, or did whatever they did, where they, either they didn't get to play their sports, or they did and they didn't know what was going on from 1 minute to the next. I guess the only hope that I really hope for them the most is that they got resilience out of this somehow, because this year has sucked for them probably more than anybody else I can think of. You can talk about all the old fucking people all you want, and I'll put myself in that category. I've been depressed as hell sometimes this year because I haven't been able to go anywhere and talk to anybody face to face. And I do miss my camera and my sporting events. And people have lost their grandparents and parents and things like that. But we're old. Fuck, we've lived. That's the one thing. These kids that we've basically locked down and sucked life out of them, they're just starting. And I guess if there's, that's all. I just wanted to go over the last year because it hit me this year that when I went back and started going through my photos, I went, what was the last sporting event I actually was at? Well, it was an ass kicking. Hopefully baseball will be better this weekend. We'll find out how it goes.
Hope so.
Damn right. John and Todd will be there. Looking for a recap and a report next week on the Five Heart Podcast, and maybe a story or two.
We'll see if we can do a podcast together there.
Oh, there you go.
That could be dangerous. Maybe we can find a tree and we can both sit by it.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I just want to toss this. I know we're trying to wrap up here, but John, a year ago this last Friday, what did you text me?
I don't know.
I shit my pants.
South by Southwest is canceled.
Yes, I did. And you were going to it. I
was on the road I was driving to Austin, Texas, and you texted me, and I was absolutely crushed. I was devastated. And, but yeah, you're the one that brought it to my attention. So it's been quite the year, hasn't it? It really has. So,
yeah. Well, I hope this one becomes normal again in the next couple of months, because I've talked to other website guys. Traffic sucks everywhere. Podcasts, for most of the people that are doing podcasts, because I'm in all sorts of podcast groups, everybody's podcasts are going to shit. I published a book, my memoir. I'm in all sorts of author groups. I talk to other authors now, and I follow all this self-publishing stuff. Everybody's sales are tanking into the ground. It's like everybody is checked out and waiting for things to happen and waiting for things to open up. So I hope that this vaccine stuff is legit and gets us out of this mess sooner rather than later.
And if you haven't yet purchased John's book, head on over to Amazon right now. You can type in John Johnston, no H in the John, definitely an H in the Johnston, and purchase Been Dead, Never Been to Europe. I finished it while I was bedside with my babies, and what a tremendous look. A ton to take away from this book. John says he hates the way it ended. I loved the way it ended. But and we talked about this a few weeks ago on the podcast. If you take nothing else away from Ben Dead, Never Been to Europe. And this is not a spoiler because I do want you to buy the book, read the book. Drink plenty of water.
I'm in all these heart attack groups too, and then people constantly complaining about their meds and their anxiety and their inability to sleep. And what fucking comes up today? Some young woman that was younger than I, probably in her 40s, that had a heart attack and was talking about how her body was cramping because sometimes when we take statins, right, you get cramps from them, and they're terrible cramps. And, she's like, is this common? Is this normal? And of course, who has to come up with shit? Because one woman comes back and say, make sure you're drinking plenty of fucking water. She didn't say fucking because, God, you got to stay hydrated. In other words, the Palestinians and Israelis are kill each other if you don't stay hydrated. Hey, God.
Okay, that's our show, folks. We appreciate you.
By 3 with 8:22 left. There you go. Let's see if we can pull it out here.
Pull it out. Don't do what I did. Pull it. Never mind. That was a joke for me. Nobody.
Oh, wait, there is one more bit of news. One more thing. Just one more. Remember Peter Falk in Colombo. I got one more question. I just saw, I think it was last night, where the NCAA is filing a legal motion to stop a clinic from using the trademark vasectomy mayhem, because the NCAA thinks that it would cause confusion with March Madness mayhem, whatever they do. And this brings forth all sorts of things that, number one, if you're a vasectomy clinic, what the fuck are you even putting mayhem anywhere near vasectomy for? This is not what you go, yeah, cut my testicles, mayhem. That's what I want. I want chaos. Vasectomy mayhem. There's got to be, you want to look that up and see what's going on there. And then, of course, there's the jokes. It's a ballsy move by the NCAA in court today, right? It must be a pretty cocky move by that lawyer. All sorts of stuff that can go on with that, but that's that's your NCAA for you, going after a vasectomy clinic or a urology clinic. I don't know what part of the penology. What do they call that part of the body? Is there a urologist?
Urology.
Okay, a urology clinic. There you go.
Your next doctor.
That's my end. Vasectomy mayhem.
I'd like to end it on a more positive note. Rumor has it NCAA football video game, summer 2023. Something to live for.
It sounds so far away.
John, the last 12 months have been both a blink of an eye and felt like 100 years. So take a deep breath, drink plenty of water, and we'll build up a franchise in the summer of 2023. You and me, buddy.
Okay.
All right. That'll do it for our show. We appreciate everybody for had the strength to make it this far. I don't know how we did. But for Todd Wolverton, for John Jam Johnston, I'm Greg Mahochko, reminding you this week and every week, except for probably the last two, that 5 Heart is all the heart you need. John?
Go Big Red and do good at baseball. We need something, goddammit.
Todd, anything?
I'll second that.
He'll second that.